Welcome to the BEASTwriter family, where social media engagement is encouraged. I am your host, Ryan Sakamoto, and I'm here with my man, Mike Tang, for Tang Thursdays. We are starting a little bit early at 2:18 p.m. Mike, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good, Ryan. How you doing this Thursday?
I am doing excellent. Thank you for asking. I appreciate that. Let's go ahead and talk about the news as it pertains to Fred Warner. I put up an earlier podcast on that as to why I believe that Fred Warner may be on the trading block because he has yet to be given a contract extension. What are your thoughts there?
You know, it's been rumored for quite a while, man. And when someone like Fred Warner, the type of caliber of player he is, and he's still not extended to a contract to this date, you kind of have to wonder. We talked about it in our last podcast last week. You know, are we just messing around here? Are we just using Fred Warner as trade bait? And the longer that he stays unsigned, you know, the higher chance the Niners are going to trade him, right?
Right.
So for Niners fans, we got to be a little bit worried because a lot of talk is about Trent Williams, about Jason Verrett, but not a lot of people are pushing Fred Warner to be signed. Only you, BEASTwriter. So It's something to definitely kind of take a look at as a Niner fan here, and hope that, you know, they kind of get to their senses and figure out to sign the guy, or else he might be gone.
Absolutely. And again, you know, when I broke news on November 3rd, everyone was laughing at me. Well, they ain't laughing now. And fast forward to today, look what's transpiring. Dude, the YouTube receipts check out. You know, and I know that Fred Warner needs to be resigned. GM John Lynch, assistant GM Adam Peters knew this going into the season. And at the midway point, once they knew they had an all-pro in their hands, they could have resigned an extension during the year. However, they waited because why? We don't know what's going on with the quarterback position. So as you just pointed out, and as I said earlier, could he be used as a chess piece in a potential blockbuster deal, which includes possibly Jimmy Garoppolo, or for a quarterback like Deshaun Watson? We really don't know what's going on there. And the fact that he hasn't been given a contract extension, and yet you have left tackle Trent Williams, who is likely to command open money, like a lot of like front-loaded money in a front-loaded contract on the open market. There's a lot of moving parts, and Fred Warner, to me, holds the keys to whatever happens with whether it's Deshaun Watson or another quarterback coming to San Francisco via trade, because at the end of the day, I don't think they trust Jimmy Garoppolo, and I don't care what Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are smoking or what they say. It's all smoke, bro. It's all smoke. And that is why Todd McShay, Mel Kiper get paid the big bucks to put out these mock drafts, and they say Niners are going to go quarterback at number 12. That's what I see happening there. So if you guys have yet to catch my podcast, I have a trade scenario. This is my trade scenario and how I actually see it playing out. Now, again, do I want Fred Warner to be traded? Absolutely not. That's not something that I want. I want him to stay in San Francisco. However, I'm not the GM. John Lynch is. And if we're basing it future behavior based on the past, you have to look at what they did with DeForest Buckner. Yeah, we like DeForest Buckner. He's a core foundational player. We love him. He's the best. Then what happened? See ya, DeForest Buckner. Off to Indy for the 13th overall pick. Or the 13th overall pick. So what are you doing? So this is how I see it playing out, right? I'm connecting the dots. I cover all 32 NFL teams. Mike, just bear with me for a second as I break down this trade. The Dolphins get middle linebacker Fred Warner. The 49ers get the Dolphins' number 18th overall pick. Again, look what happened last year. They traded with the Colts, gave up DeForest Buckner, got a 13th overall pick in return. I can see a similar scenario playing out. Why the Dolphins? Well, the Dolphins have the least amount of holes of any NFL team. Running back, wide receiver, center, and linebacker. They just got released Kyle Van Noy, who is on the second year of his contract, saving the team $7.5 million in cap savings. So they have $33 million in cap health. They can make a play for Fred Warner. They obviously need a quarterback of the defense. Fred Warner fits the bill there. And if not going to the Miami Dolphins, stay within the AFC East. Let's talk about the all-gas, no-break mentality, teaming back up with Robert Saleh in New York. Now, hear me out here. They also have multiple first round picks, right, Mike? They have the 2nd overall pick and they have the 23rd overall pick. Well, obviously, they're not going to give up the number 2 overall pick, but number 23 could be in play. Why? I'll tell you why. When you get the 23rd overall pick, you trade off Fred Warner, you can then maybe on top of that get a 2nd rounder on top of that. So if you can get the 23rd overall pick and the number 34 overall pick, now you're leveraging draft flexibility in your favor, and you can leverage that trade because, again, if you're not going to pay Fred Warner, GM John Lynch, you're going to want draft capital in return. This is how you think. I know you.
Yeah.
Okay. This is how you think. And when you look at the mock drafts and the holes that you guys need, you're going to take a quarterback at 12, Mac Jones. Then at number 23, I can see you taking a running back or a cornerback, whether that be J.C. Horn, Najee Harris, or you can go offensive line. See the draft flexibility options here? Landon Dickerson, Samuel Cosme, Alex Leatherwood. And if you choose to go one of those directions, you still got the 34th pick after that. So there's a lot of options here on the plate for San Francisco, and why Fred Warner's not re-signed is beyond me. It's crazy. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think Fred Warner will actually be traded when it's all said and done?
You know, I think it's highly considered, you know, at this point here. If I was Fred Warner's agent, I would go up to Lynch and be like, where's my contract? You know, free agency is coming up and you guys are not talking about it at all here. So his agent could give him an ultimatum. Look, you either trade me here or I'm going to think about leaving after this season, no matter what. And I'll just play out the contract and find my money elsewhere. And the Niners, on the other hand, they're probably thinking, okay, well, what can we get for Fred Warner at this point? Right. And you're looking at the Dolphins. They have multiple first-round picks here. The Niners have glaring needs. But at the same time, like the Niners already have 10 draft picks in this draft, you know?
Right.
Beast, do you think we need more than that? You know, to get
do.
rid of a player like Fred Warner?
No, I'm not saying so. What I'm saying is I'm not saying the Niners should get rid of Fred Warner. Let's not get that twisted. I want Fred Warner to stay in San Francisco. That's the best play.
Yeah.
However, I'm not the GM. If I was the GM, that would be my play. Again, I'd be on the phone call with KMBR right now. I'm saying trade Fred Warner, George Kittle, Nick Bosa, all untouchable. Those rumors are dead. Right. However, John Lynch hasn't said that. Why? Here we are. What I'm saying is I'm looking at it from a realistic standpoint and how I see it actually might play out, right? How things might actually play out. It makes total financial sense from all parties involved to go ahead and make this deal. Why? Because the 49ers are in a rebuild mode. I don't care what people say. They're not a Super Bowl contender. No. Look at that offensive line. No quarterback can have success. Put Deshaun Watson back there. I don't care. He's still not going to have the same success that he had because the offensive line is shaky at best.
Yep.
Right? They don't have a guy like Laramie Tunsil there. Trent Williams is all but gone. And here, let's peel back another layer of the onion to get to the core. As I always say, if they get rid of Fred Warner, obviously Trent Williams is going to be staying, but then you're still going to need a right tackle, especially, we'll talk about it a little bit later, but the Indianapolis Colts are possibly looking in trading for right tackle Mike McGlinchey. So now there's a hole there. You need draft capital. You don't have you're not going to sign any of these high-priced free agents and overpay for a right tackle.
Right.
So the draft is the way to do it. And that's why I say it makes financial sense. Now, again, do I want it to happen? No. Is it going to happen? I'm not John Lynch, but it does make sense. For anyone who said it doesn't make sense, you would be doing yourself a disservice because if you look at the financials, you look at the draft flexibility, and you look at the teams involved, GM Chris Greer for the Miami Dolphins, GM Joe Douglas, you have Robert Saleh there in New York, you have Brian Flores there in Miami. You don't think they're going to make a trade or at least inquire about Fred Warner services? You bet your butt they will, for sure. Hands down. Hands down. All right.
Just one more thing, Beast. You know, with the value of draft capital, you know, out there, it is much cheaper to draft someone after the 3rd and 4th round as opposed to signing a veteran minimum. The veteran minimum is what, Beast? Like over 1 million per se. And then if you draft someone in the 4th through 7th round, that's going to cost way less than the veteran minimum here. So that's why teams value the draft picks and why they ask so much, you know, for these veteran players in return. So that's just my take on that.
No, absolutely, absolutely. But you guys also got to understand. Here's another. This is why you guys follow us, right? For our forward thinking and analysis. Sam Darnold is also being discussed in trade rumors for a potential move to San Francisco. What if Saleh wants Jimmy Garoppolo?
Yeah.
Okay. What if Saleh wants Jimmy Garoppolo and then he also wants Fred Warner? So then what if they package those two players? They go back to New York, reuniting with Robert Saleh. And in return, they get Sam Darnold, so they get a quarterback. They can still draft the quarterback at 12.
Right.
Do you see where this is going?
Yeah, I
There's
would rather have
moving parts.
I would rather have the number 2 pick than Sam Darnold, but I don't think
So would I. So would I. I would too. But that's what it's going to take. I don't see New York moving off the spot for the number 2 overall pick. However, if you're talking about Fred Warner, who's a generational talent, in my opinion, the best middle linebacker in the game, you go ahead and make that move. It's funny how people say, "Oh, Fred Warner's is not a premium position, so he's not worth the money." Hello, he's the quarterback of the defense. What do you mean? He's the heart and soul. You take out the heart, you lose the soul. What are you talking about, bro?
Right. I think a lot of people or fans, they undervalue that linebacker position in general for some reason.
Right.
Here, I don't know if it's because there's several pretty good linebackers out there, maybe like 10 or 15 pretty good linebackers, and there's like maybe top 3 good linebackers, but it feels very undervalued. Is there a reason for that? Do you know why fans are just like, you know what, we can always replace a guy like Fred Warner, when in reality it's pretty tough to do so?
It really is. And the reason why the middle linebacker is not the sexy position, it's not the premium position that people always talk about, because that's mainly been quarterback, left tackle, edge rusher. Those are the top 3. And you talk to 75% of the GMs, I think about 75%, maybe 80% of the GMs would agree. Now, taking it a step further, how many Ray Lewises are out there? How many Patrick Willises are out there?
Right.
How many Fred Warners are out there? Then it comes supply and demand. You don't want them, someone else will. I tell you what, the same thing was said about DeForest Buckner, and people were like, "Oh, we have Javon Kinlaw. He's going to be great. He's a freak. He's going to get it done." Look at the domino effect that happened there. Now, this is not a knock on Javon Kinlaw, but let's face it, he's not near what DeForest Buckner was, even coming out as a rookie.
Right.
Look how many snaps DeForest Buckner played as a rookie in that 34 base defense. He was making plays sideline to sideline, right? So when you put that all together and you actually take it into context exactly what it is we're talking about, you cannot replace a Fred Warner. But again, I'm not GM John Lynch. I'm not the one making this decision. Ultimately, it's his decision. And John Lynch, based on past behavior, is not afraid to pull the trigger on wiping his hands clean of homegrown talent, all pro talent, the best at the position for draft capital.
Let's put it this way, Beast. Do you think John Lynch is feeling a lot of pressure from upper management to win next year? Here, I think it's going to be his 5th year as a general manager. Do you think it's win or bust for this coming year? They were so close to the Super Bowl 2 seasons ago. Does he think that Jimmy Garoppolo can take him to that Super Bowl title?
That's a great question, and I would have to say yes. That's why I wrote the podcast up on GM John Lynch maybe on the hot seat. He does questionable moves. He does okay in the draft, but when you miss at the top of the draft, aside from 2019,
right?
Come on. And then you mortgage your future by giving up 3rd-round picks for half-year or 1-year rental players in Emmanuel Sanders and Trent Williams, and then you have to double down on that and compound that problem by trading back 1 spot with the Tampa Bay Bucks when you should have just took Tristan Wirfs anyways, why are we talking about tackle right now? They could have got Tristan Wirfs. Why? Oh, that's right, because they freaking mortgaged their future because they need to recoup a 3rd-round pick for a half-year rental player, and that's what they got by trading back 1 spot with the Tampa Bay Bucks. Get it straight, man. Come on. People need to open their eyes. Like seriously, legit know your stuff, man. For real. The reason why I'm so ticked off is because people are like, "Oh no, bro. Really, bro? Look at the facts." The facts of the matter are this. John Lynch has done more wrong than good, and it's having a compounded Buckner effect of issues. And we are seeing it today, period. Period. There is nothing that you can say that can justify what John Lynch has made by setting the domino effect of issues, starting with DeForest Buckner. I don't know. That's just my opinion. What are your thoughts on that? Because, again, it goes back to DeForest Buckner and how that has a domino effect on the team moving forward. He's just trying to fix the problem and patch here. No. It's done, bro. It's a wrap. That's why Adam Peters was promoted to assistant GM, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, we definitely could have used Tristan Wirfs this past season and also for the future here. You know, they made it to the Super Bowl with him, you know, as their draft pick. You know, I hated the Buckner trade to begin with, you know, just because the value that Buckner gave to the team and what Eric Armstead doesn't give to the 49ers at times. You know, you watch the film. If you watch the film, Armstead, he just disappears in a lot of plays for some reason here. Yeah, like that.
And comes out. And then when Bosa's here, he's here. And then when he's gone, he's like this. Bro, it's true. I don't care. Swipe left. I don't care. Let's call it what it is. And Eric Armstead has 10, 12 sacks this year. Okay, cool story, bro. You are Dennis Stubblefield 2.0. Period. Yeah.
I don't think
get it done. You would get it done right now, bro.
I don't think the guy had 5 sacks.
I hear crickets. He didn't come at me.
I don't even think the guy had 5 sacks this past season, right?
No.
Yeah. So,
but he'll have some this year because Nick Bosa gonna be eating, and when Nick Bosa eats, everyone else eats. Free food for everyone. It's a buffet. Let's go. I'm just saying. Let's keep it 100. All right, let's move on.
All right.
Let's talk about the news about Mike McGlinchey to the Indianapolis Colts. It's a scenario that is on Twitter, how GM Chris Ballard, who I talked a lot, is now asking and inquiring about right tackle Mike McGlinchey. What is your take there?
I think McGlinchey I think he's just pushing his options right now here. Okay. He struggled mightily this past season. We all saw it, you know, especially in the fourth quarter here, where he just kind of screwed up, you know, out there in the field. But I think he's looking for about 10 to 11 million to exercise that last option. And as a 49er fan, do you think he's really worth that much here? So you kind of have to think of the pros and cons, right? The pros, you don't have anyone in the roster to replace him, right? And you go out in free agency, you're probably going to have to spend quite the same amount of money to replace a guy like Mike McGlinchey. Right. On the flip side here, is he really worth $10 million a year for that fifth option, right?
Right, exactly.
And my thinking is probably not, to be honest with you, you know? And that kind of goes where we talked about draft capital in the beginning of the show. Can we find someone in the draft that's going to cost 10 times less than Mike McGlinchey, probably in the 4th or 5th round, right? I'm always looking for cheap value that you can replace players, kind of like the Patriots way in a sense, right?
Yeah.
The Patriots, they don't like paying guys. You know, they would rather trade them than extend them offers here. And Belichick always believed that he can just find players in the draft to plug in, you know? But with this administration and what Lynch has been doing, he hasn't been doing that. He's been extending the wrong guys. He's been drafting the wrong players, you know? So what's your take on McGlinchey and if he's going to come back?
Hey, listen, McGlinchey had a down year, but anyone who played competitive sports know you can have a down year and bounce back. Now, what I saw with Mike McGlinchey is I saw a lot of technique issues. All right.
Yeah.
So it's funny because I feel like he reverted back to his former self. Some of the things that hampered him coming out of Notre Dame, we see at the NFL level now, which is surprising because he had a good rookie season. I like Mike McGlinchey. I think he should be extended that 5th-year option simply because, again, he's a first-round pick. And if they don't extend his 5th-year option, then they'll just give me more ammo to go after GM John Lynch and say, hey, look, you didn't pick up your 2017 first-round picks, 5th-year option, Solomon Thomas. How's that going for you? And now you double down on that the very next year in 2018. So, John Lynch, how good are you at drafting in the first round? Oh, Reuben Foster, where's he at? Oh, my gosh. Let's go, bro. I'm just saying, let's stay. You guys want to talk facts? We can talk facts, okay? I got you covered. I know Mike Tang got you covered. and we are here bringing you unfiltered 100 coverage all day, every day. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Now, what would it take, though, for Mike McGlinchey to go to Indianapolis? Like, what do you think is logically the trade value there?
Probably going to take, what, a second-round pick at the very least, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But he's probably going to go third-round pick, to be honest.
A third-round pick?
I think a third-round pick for McGlinchey and the way he struggled last year, even though he is a first-round talent. But at the same time, like, people just see what you've delivered in the past season. They don't see where you've been drafted. A lot of players have been drafted in the first round and they've been traded for like a third or fourth round pick years later. So what do you think is McGlinchey's value right now if he was to be traded to the Colts?
Because he's a top 10 pick and he's a 2018 first round pick, any coach or any GM believes they're going to go back to the film and say, hey, look, I don't know what they were teaching him in San Francisco. I don't know what Chris Forrester was teaching him in San Francisco.
Yeah.
But we can coach him up and teach him to do things that we do it our way. And we see a first round grade in him. I can tell you this much. GM Chris Ballard is really high on him coming out of 2018 NFL draft. So with that being said, any coach or any GM can believe they can get the most out of the player with the right proper coaching. Ultimately, they hold the number 21 overall pick. If you watch my earlier mock drafts, which I included on mock draft playlist. For those who don't know, I did a whole 5-hour going through all my videos and I categorized it by team and then mock draft. So look at my playlist. You can see all my Twitter and YouTube receipts there. Go ahead and criticize or give me props for my Twitter, YouTube receipts. I would love to, what you guys have to say. But getting back to that pick, I think they're going to give up the 21st pick for right tackle Mike McGlinchey because at the end of the day, when you look at this tackle draft class, it's not very strong. And if you were to put right tackle Mike McGlinchey in this 2021 tackle draft class, he'd probably be a top 3 offensive tackle or top 5 for sure offensive tackle. You look at guys like Alex Leatherwood, Samuel Cosmi out of Texas. Those two guys would be around where they would be slated to pick at pick number 21. I currently have Samuel Cosmi going to Indianapolis at 21. However, if they feel that Mike McGlinchey is a better player, I would trade the number 21 overall pick. Because at the end of the day, you were going to tackle anyone and you're still getting a first round grade player on a rookie deal.
Yeah.
I don't know. Makes sense. It really makes sense. So let's move on. What else did you want to talk about? I know what you want to talk about. The quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave this one to you. I touched base on this earlier, but I want to hear your take on the day 2, day 3 quarterbacks who the 49ers might take. Go ahead. The floor is yours, my man.
Yeah, we all know who the top 5 quarterbacks, will be here. That's going to be Lawrence. It's going to be the guy from what's his name here, the BYU guy, Zach Wilson. Is it Zach Wilson? Yeah, yes. Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
But, let's talk about some of the guys who are going to be taken in the second, third, fourth round here that might be available to the Niners if they don't draft a quarterback in that first round. And the first guy that really comes to mind here is Kellen Mond. A lot of people are talking about this guy from Texas A&M. I know a lot. He's a very polarizing player in which some scouts really like him, some really don't here. But at the same time, you kind of have to look at his mobility. You have to see his size here. The thing is that he doesn't throw great after one progression here, and he doesn't go through it, and he struggles a lot under pressure. And when he struggles a lot under pressure, he just looks at one guy or he's just looking at one side of the field. So is Kellen Mond really the type of quarterback that we want to draft in like the second, third, fourth round and plug him to be that second tier quarterback in the future here? A couple other guys, Beast, is Kyle Trask from Florida.
Okay.
At the same time, he's only played under the shotgun for the most part. The issue with Trask is that he has a lot of big-time accuracy issues. He lacks mobility. He's very inconsistent with his mechanics here. A lot of people, they think he's very similar to a guy, Mason Rudolph from the Steelers. Very, very low ceiling with Kyle Trask. And one more guy that's picking up a lot of steam is Davis Mills from Stanford. For some reason, he was actually rated the number 1 quarterback out of high school in front of Tua. Right?
I know. I know. I know.
But I've
You're
watched a
telling me.
couple Stanford games. And
You look like you
don't
went to Stanford, Mike Tang. Did you go to Stanford, Mike Tang? People are like, this guy probably went to Stanford.
I like Stanford players. They just don't freaking produce in the NFL, man. Like,
Yeah.
what's going on with that? But I've watched quite a few Stanford games, and when you watch him play, he makes a lot of bonehead mistakes, right? And he doesn't really wow you when
Right.
he's playing. But at the same time, he plays in this pro style offense here, both in the shotgun and under center. He has great size. He has great mobility. But he mainly throws right in the middle of the field, which
Right.
is kind of an issue here. And then when you also watch him play, you see that big bulky knee brace that he has on his knee, right?
Yeah.
And he's gone through 2 ACL injuries
Right.
here. But at the same time, do we think he can be a number 1 quarterback in this league? Right.
It's one of those things. I think the quarterback position is one of the toughest positions to evaluate because, again, it's easier when you address like the offensive line or the skill players. You can see the critical factors in their games. However, when it comes to the quarterback situation, it's like, okay, like how are his mechanics? Okay, well, if you're getting by with bad mechanics, I mean, does that going to translate in the NFL? I mean, some people tap the ball right before they throw. That's a tell, right? So
Yeah.
do you clean it up? Like, okay, from here to here, exactly what are they being coached in college, and can they actually make that adjustment? Tedford, the coach, he would always have it right here, so then you can release it rather than bring it down and then having the long windup. So the mechanics, aside from the football stuff, I mean, it starts there, right? The foundational base of how to throw off platform, how to extend plays, and then with that comes poise. Are you calm, cool, and collected, or do you get rattled after throwing a pick six? These are things that, I mean, it's probably one of the toughest positions to evaluate. So when you look at guys like Tom Brady who fall, right, in the 6th, 7th rounds, right, and then you're wondering, like, how did Tom Brady fall? Well, it's like, dude, like till this day, I don't know how the 49ers picked Giovanni Carmazzi out of Hofstra in 2000 over Tom Brady. I mean, in hindsight, it's like, oh yeah, but even I remember as a kid, I was watching this, like, really, dude? Like, do you know what he does for a living now?
What is he like? What is he like? Outside? No. What does he do for a living?
I think he like takes care of goats or something. Like, there's. I'm not joking. Look it up. Go Google it. I'm not joking. Anyways, that's a pretty cool story with Giovanni Carmazzi. But I looked it up. Let's Google goats Giovanni Carmazzi. Something will pop up. I'm sure it will. But no, I thought that was a huge bust. And even Steve Mariucci went on air when they had that Canton, Ohio, preseason game before COVID. They would have that one game, that Hall of Fame game. It was like the Patriots against the San Francisco 49ers. They threw Giovanni Carmazzi into the fire, and that was disastrous. He actually went on record and saying he should have done that because ultimately he thinks that game ultimately ended his career before it started because it got in his head.
Was that the same season Jake Plummer was drafted there?
Was it?
I think so. Like in the late 90s, 99, 98 area.
Jake Plummer was drafted in a different, but Giovanni Carmazzi came out of 2000.
2000. Okay.
2000. Yeah.
Okay.
But, yeah.
So Jake Plummer, any of those quarterbacks that we mentioned, Kellen Mond, Kyle Trask, Davis Mills, do you see any potential for them to be drafted by the Niners this season? Do you think they're going to screw this up? That's my thinking, right?
I don't like any one of those guys, and that's including Kellen Mond. No, actually, I take that back. Kellen Mond has the critical factor, so I'm not gonna say I don't like Kellen Mond, but I'm not as high on Kellen Mond as I am. I just think a lot of these quarterbacks are being hyped up because it's draft time. We hype up everyone.
Yeah.
Oh, let's compare this player to this player. Oh, this player, because why? It gets clicks. Being in the media, that's how we do it. Oh, what's going to get us clicks?
Yeah.
But that's not how I run things, right? I say, hey, if this guy sucks, he sucks. Like, I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it and be like, I could get 1,000 watch hours by saying this. You know what I mean? No. Let's stay true in 100. I don't see anything in their games that actually gives me a wow factor, right? When you look at some of these quarterbacks at the top of the draft, Trevor Lawrence gives me a wow factor, right? Justin Fields even at times gives me a wow factor. You see that poise. You see that toughness. I don't really see it in these guys' games. I just see average quarterbacks at best. And if anything, I see them as solid backups. Now, again, I'm not a scout. I don't know. They could end up being an all-pro player, the next Tom Brady. But, based on my past behavior, I've been pretty spot on, and I don't see anything worth warranting saying, hey, this guy's going to be the guy at the next level.
When evaluators are looking at the quarterback position, Beast, what do you
Mhm.
think are some of like the modern day traits they're looking for? Back in the 80s and 90s, it used to be, someone who's tall, 6'2", 6'1", 200 pounds, could make all the
Kind of like
throws in
me,
the pocket. Here, kind of like you, Ryan. You can do that in your sleep.
5'5".
But back then it was all about kind of being a pocket passer and not really being too mobile out there. And a lot of systems in college, they would just play the pro system.
Right.
There right now, there's a lot of spread offenses, a lot of shotgun offenses. Here, there's so many types of quarterbacks out there trying to implement, these pro quarterbacks as games. They're looking at Russell Wilson, they're looking at Mahomes, and they're trying to replicate that here. But what do you think are maybe like the top 2 or 3 important traits that evaluators are really looking for? My thinking is, they want someone who's been maybe in the pro system in the college level for at least 2 seasons. And they want someone who's going to maybe understand complex type of systems when they get to the NFL.
I think based on today's NFL's game, because all the rules are favoring the offense, you really want a dual threat quarterback. Why? Because there's no flopping rule involved like it is in the NBA. You can flop. You can actually coach up your players, your quarterback specifically, how to flop. And I know this sounds ridiculous, but let me tell you something. If I was that quarterback coach, I'd be like, this is how you leverage running out of bounds and how you can kind of get that defensive player stuck in a bind to where we get flagged in an extra 15 yards. Heck, why don't you make me quarterback? I'm 5'5". You can't hit me head. You can't hit me below the knees. You can only hit me in my target area. If I just duck my head and let Eric Armstead come at me, it'd be a flag 15 times a game. Go ahead, take my head off. Yeah, that's 50. We can get at the 1 yard line. I'm serious. This is how the rules are. When you think about it, I'm looking for a 5'10" quarterback. I'm not joking. 5'10", 5'11", like the Russell Wilson, like the Kyler Murrays, right? Someone who's a shorter stature but can still throw and see over the line, right? Make plays with his feet, extend drives, get that mobile dual threat quarterback, and a guy who can win in all 3 levels with accuracy. Again, you still have to be accurate in all 3 levels. You can't just say, oh, this guy's accurate and then throws on the wrong shoulder or can't throw to the receiver in stride. That's inaccurate, even though the guy might catch the ball. But accuracy plays a role. Poise definitely isn't of the utmost importance. How they handle pocket presence, right? Do they get pressure, and how do they bounce back from maybe throwing a pick 6 or maybe 2 interceptions in the game? How do they come back? Like, how do they face adversity? Does their players and does their teammates and do the coaching staff really believe in this player? Say, if we're down by 3 scores with 8 minutes left in the game, do I trust this guy to actually will us to win? Can he do it? Or is he going to be like one of the other guys that just gives up?
Right.
These are critical factors that you look for. Ultimately, that's the things that I look for. Your passion for the game, obviously. Does this player have heart? How does he handle going through his progressions? Obviously, how quick study he is in terms of learning the playbook, game film, off the field. Does he understand down and distance? Does he understand defensive backs' tendencies? What they like to do on certain plays, how they leverage their technique. Do they gamble like Marcus Peters, where I can beat him on a double move, or a Janoris Jenkins?
Right.
Things like that.
It's a lot to look for, It's a lot to look for, man. And sometimes you can't find all of that out, right? Before the draft. And sometimes these college quarterbacks, they've experienced so much success in college where they don't deal with a lot of adversity, right? They're not down 3 scores and their team is looking for them to, come back. I'm looking at some of these guys' numbers. They have 70, 75 touchdowns in their career and maybe 10 interceptions. Yeah. That's like a 7 to 8 to 1 ratio here. So it's really tough to determine it before the draft. But some good evaluators, they're able to do it. And that's why a lot of players drop so far.
I have a question for you. I know we're going to go off topic. I should change this ticker on the bottom. It says ask me questions. It should be ask us questions. My bad. Ask me questions. Forget about Mike. Let me just go ahead and ask us questions. Let me just go ahead and change that right now. All right. Let's go ahead and do this. Ask us questions. All right. So as we go ahead and the best I can, that's still wrong. The best we can. Look at this. I can't even multitask, people. But anyways, let's go ahead and touch base on, we already did Fred Warner. We already did Mike McGlinchey. Let's touch base on something else. Obviously, people want to know, and let's talk about the running back position in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the running backs coming out of the draft, who you might like and or not like, who you like or don't like. But let's also talk about their state of the franchise right now in terms of the quarterback running back situation. Like, where do you see that going?
I think the running back situation is probably as stable as it can be at this moment.
Okay.
I heard a crazy rumor that Raheem Mostert might be on the trading block, or they might not want to, move forward with this contract next year. But I think it's still pretty team friendly from the looks of it. Maybe under $4 million a year here, and they still have Jeff Wilson Jr. On the roster as well. But at the same time, I could see them actually drafting a running back, possibly in the 4th, 5th, 6th round area.
Okay.
What we saw from Hasty as the 3rd running back, we have to determine if that guy is going to be on the team next year. And if he can stay on I think he's 5'7" here, under 180 pounds. We have to ask ourselves, is he going to be healthy enough to be a difference? Because we're going to need a 3rd running back on this team. Kind of looking at some of the running backs on free agency. I know Jerry Yang mentioned on Monday he likes Philip Lindsay there. And, there's other guys, out there too. Guys like Aaron Jones, Michael Burton, Josh Hokett. Some of these guys are running backs / fullbacks. We can also re-sign Kyle Juszczyk too. That could also be a good option. But at the same time, we mentioned this so many times, like there's so many other free agents that we have to get. And Juszczyk might not even be a viable option after everyone is signed. So what is your take on that?
Philip Lindsay has been rumored to the 49ers. I still like Najee Harris. Like, I still think they can get Najee Harris. Now, obviously at 12 would be a little too high, but you can trade back and get Najee Harris, my draft crush. Last year was Justin Jefferson. I kept, and people were like, no, we don't need Justin Jefferson. This is a loaded wide receiver class. Like, okay, dude, Justin Jefferson different. They didn't believe me. Now they believe me. But Najee Harris, same thing. Why aren't people high on Najee Harris? Like, it's kind of obvious how good he is. It's amazing how people knock on Najee Harris because he has tread on his tires. He's a running back playing the SEC on a national championship team. Who else are you going to give the ball to? Everything starts with a run. What do you think?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird.
Do you think the 49ers are going to trade up to get Najee Harris? Because I think he is projected to go in the top 10, correct?
No, I think he's.
Or is he going to be like the top 30, 35?
He's going to be a top 30, man.
Okay.
As of right now, I have him mocked to the Miami Dolphins at number 18, which brings me to my Fred Warner trade, right? So if you talk about this, it all ties into Fred Warner. Like, all my podcasts tie into the next one, and that's why I love covering all 32 NFL teams. Look, if you get Fred Warner, the Miami Dolphins, they need a linebacker, quarterback of the defense. They get him. They can actually trade the number 18th overall pick. Why? They already have the number 3 overall pick. So they have draft flexibility there, and GM Chris Greer will pull the trigger on that. The next question is, who at 18 logically will be there? Now the Niners hold 2 first-round draft picks, right? They have 12, and now they have 18. So now they also gain draft flexibility because now they can pick Mac Jones at 12, and then at 18, double down on that with Najee Harris, or even if they want to go cornerback, because we don't know what's going to happen with Jason Verrett, go after Jason Horn out of South Carolina. So you kill 2 birds with 1 stone, essentially. If that's not in play, again, with the Jets, you can then roll over Fred Warner and then get a 23rd overall pick and possibly their 2nd rounder, which is very high, which is a 34th overall pick. At 23, you can still get Najee Harris or a running back if he slips and falls and passes the Miami Dolphins, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who Mel Kiper currently has them selecting Landon Dickerson. Or you can get a guy like Landon Dickerson because, again, at the position that you're selecting, 34, Landon Dickerson may slide to 34 simply because of why? ACL injuries.
Right.
Or you can go after Creed Humphrey to replace Weston Richburg. There's a lot of different options you can go and play this here. So that's why I think if you're John Lynch, again, I would not trade Fred Warner. I'm not promoting trading Fred Warner. I'm just seeing it from a GM standpoint and from all wins party aside, where it's a win-win from everyone. It makes financial sense. And when you look at it and where the Niners are currently sitting at based on past behavior, you have to say this is a scenario that really makes sense. The connect the dots is for real. Robert Saleh in New York, you don't think he's going to want that all gas, no break mentality? And who better to do it than Fred Warner?
Yeah.
Your quarterback of the defense?
Yeah.
Come
and
on,
combine
bro.
that with signing K1 Williams, too.
Oh my gosh, here we go. Here we go with the comments. I'm just saying, man. It's going to be interesting, man. And you look at what the Jets have, the financial salary cap health that they have, a number of different needs. Look, they're not going to fill all those needs in the draft.
Right.
They're obviously going to fill some of these needs in free agency. How they manipulate the draft or the free agency in their favor, and that includes trades, will ultimately determine how well they do in Robert Saleh's year one. And I can guarantee you that Robert Saleh would love nothing more if he was to go to Joe Douglas and say, hey, if there's one guy I want, I know we signed CJ Mosley, but we don't know what we're getting with him. He was out for COVID season. We don't know what we're getting with CJ Mosley. Let's go after Fred Warner. Let's get it done because I know what I'm getting with Fred Warner. I know he knows my system. CJ Mosley came out of 3-4 base with Baltimore and now New York. Now they're transitioning to a 4-3 under the New York Jets, Robert Saleh's scheme. That's a different ballgame.
Do you think people are knocking Najee Harris just because he's like 6'2", and like some of these top running backs coming out of the draft, they're like 5'10", 5'11", 5'8". Here, do you think they think Najee Harris is a little bit too heavy or something? Coming out of the backfield, or they don't think he has enough quickness to play at a pro level? Because I'm seeing some other guys out there. There's Javonte Williams out of North Carolina. He's 5'10". There's Michael Carter from North Carolina. He's a senior, 5'8". Here he's kind of similar to Jermichael Hasty's size. And then there's one more guy coming out of Clemson, was Travis Etienne. Etienne, yeah. So he's a 5'10" guy, 205 pounds. But Najee Harris coming out of Alabama, he's 6'2", 230 pounds. Do you think that kind of, that type of running back, it's not fitting the NFL system? Or what's the knock on Najee Harris nowadays?
It's funny, right? We all talk about measurables, right? Oh, this guy doesn't have the arm length. He doesn't have the 35-inch arms or the 36 arms for an offensive tackle. So he's only going to be strictly relegated to play an interior offensive line role. That is such complete BS. Like, let me tell you something. Yes, those measurables are there for a reason, because you look at that and obviously arm length does play a role, but how you leverage technique also plays a role. At the end of the day, if I'm a scout, I'm looking at the game film. I'm saying, I don't care how tall you are. Look, I'm 5'5", 154 pounds. Okay, it's not the size of the fight of the dog. It's the size of the fight. It's the size of the dog, it's not size of the dog in the fight. It's size of the fight in the dog, right? So we all use that mentality. It's the same true mentality. Now, when you look at guys like Gil Brandt, and they've been doing it for a while, yes, certain measurables are there for a reason. Like middle linebacker, right? I would say certain GMs don't go after certain linebackers because they don't come out of the Big Ten. They don't come out of the SEC. And you see the biases based on their draft history. And if you break it down by position, look what all these players are coming out of. So yes, there's biases, but getting back to your question with the height, weight, speed, yes, it does play a role, but I wouldn't use that as saying, oh, well, I'm going to knock him off my board or drop him down my board simply because he's 6'2", 230. Yeah. I mean, you look at guys like Eddie George. Yes, now that was in the early 90s or in the late 90s, excuse me. You see these bigger backs, but look at Derrick Henry.
Yeah, he's a big back too, right? He's 6'1".
That's my comp.
240, 250 pounds at least.
Dude,
right?
That's my comp. Derrick Henry, you're getting a poor man's Derrick Henry, which is great because obviously we know what we're getting with Derrick Henry. Najee Harris is at least going to put up 1,200 rushing yards his rookie year. 1,200. Mark it down for sure. And that's saying a lot because it's a pass-happy NFL. So for all you fantasy football players and football owners, Najee Harris, man, he's a sleeper pick. Don't sleep on him. You'll do yourself a disservice. And every time you face him every week, you're like, dang, I have to face Najee Harris? Damn, that sucks.
Do you think also in the NFL, running backs are just not being drafted very high nowadays, right? I think a lot of evaluators, they're just thinking, well, we can just draft the running back in a third or fourth round and not pay them first round money. And maybe that's why Najee Harris is not touted as a top 15 pick in this day of age.
Again, it goes back to the rules, right? Like the way the NFL is set up, they want more passes than runs. I don't care what they say. They want more passes than runs. That's why that's why defensive players are handcuffed. And that's why Ray Lewis goes on NFL Showtime every week and gets upset because it's like, dude, you can't do anything from the defensive standpoint. So why don't we just let him score? Obviously, he didn't say those exact words, but you know what I'm saying? Like, there's no protection for the defensive players whatsoever. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, yeah, I think NFL GMs are like looking at this and be like, hey, man, if we're trending this way, we have to go with the Joneses. We have to keep up. So sorry, running backs, you guys are going to be devalued. However, at the end of the day, if you're going to win a Super Bowl, you have to do three things. You have to stop the run the football, and limit your turnovers. You do those things, you control the time of possession,
right?
Control the game, you shorten the game, and ultimately, if you put more points on board than the other team, you win. Simple as that.
Yeah,
that's how I see it, man. And I don't care what anyone says, because in winter and in the fall, when you need to run the football because it's raining, the field conditions are horrible. Can you really count on Jeff Wilson to do it?
Well, Raheem Mostert has proven he can do it, right? In past playoff performances. And the Niners did a great job 2 seasons ago, just relying on that running game there. You know, they beat the Vikings, they beat the Packers in the NFC Conference Championship game here. They didn't even need Jimmy Garoppolo to carry them that season, right? And it goes back to your point. You know, you need a good running game, you need a good defense, and you got to stop turning the ball over when it counts.
That's it, man. So thank you for tuning in. I know Mike has to go, but it was a great episode. Mike Tang, the other co-host of the did you guys change your name, by the way, from AJ?
No, we haven't. What was your suggestion? You wanted to go with the Tang and Yang show or something?
See, you're laughing because it's catchy. Let me tell you something. Everyone loves that name. I'm telling you, ask your friends. We'll take a poll.
Let's take a poll. On one of your on your platform here. And then let's see if fans really like the Tang and Yang show as opposed to the MJ Sportscast.
Wait, how come you don't like it? I love it.
We didn't say we didn't like it. You know, we didn't say we didn't like it. We're considering it. We're considering it here.
All right. Well, just before I go, I just want to say thank you to all the subscribers who are following. Make sure you go ahead and follow me, because we are running BEASTwriter giveaways. Again, the 49ers pennant, the Jimmy Garoppolo bobblehead doll, because I know all you ladies love Jimmy Garoppolo. Can't get enough of your G. And then a 49ers Rumble backpack. So thank you for tuning in, Mike Tang. I appreciate it. And we will be back next Thursday for Tang Thursdays.
All right, guys. We'll see you next Thursday. Take care.